Alright everybody, hello and welcome. As always, I am Sean. This is In The Mixer, something different today. It's another one season wonder, save and a challenge. Feels a little bit weird without an intro, doesn't it? Now, for those of you that haven't checked these out before, every 40 episodes or so of our Isle of Man series, we take a bit of a break. We jump in and do a one season wonder save. We've done a couple of different ones in a couple of different leagues around the world. We started with, of course, our beta save with Atletico Madrid over in Spain. We did a one season wonder save with Manchester United, one with PSG where we won undefeated. We did an international one last time out with the England side, winning the Euros but falling at the semi-final hurdle of the World Cup. And this time around we head to Germany and the Bundesliga. Now I did kind of weigh up a couple of different teams. I wanted to do, I think originally St. Pauli in second division, but I thought for a one season save, it's probably not the best unless you're going to take them up that season and then kind of pass on the save file. I thought about doing Borussia Dortmund because they have such an exciting young side, and while Erling Haaland scores against me a lot, I haven't actually played with him in this year's version of the game. But eventually I fell on Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, they were a side that did really well at kind of like the turn of the millennium. That fantastic 2002 side, which made the Champions League final to only lose to one of the great Champions League goals of all time, Zinedine Zidane's goal. I probably will reference it a whole bunch in this series. And since then, haven't quite hit that same heights, that same level. But they've got a good core. They've got a lot of young players and prospects in the side as well. It's a very exciting kind of wonder kid-laden team. And if Bayern and Dortmund are the two biggest sides in the Bundesliga, I think Leverkusen are perhaps the ones positioned as being the best chance team to break up that dominance. I know Mönchengladbach's been doing quite well this season. I know a couple other sides are performing above expectations, but if you look at Leverkusen's squad on paper, it is very good, and I think it's a very fun one to play as. So we're going to try a couple of different things this week in a one-season save with them. Unlike Isle of Man, where you guys kind of see every little detail, it might be a little bit more smash cut in terms of the style and the way that we do episodes together. But hopefully we can try some interesting things. Hopefully we can try some different shapes, formations, tactics, all that sort of stuff. And if you enjoy it, have a look at doing Leverkusen as your own save as well. More than enough of intro from me though. Let's jump into the game and have a look at what we've done so far. So, early part of the season, as you guys can see, no games played yet. We will bring you the first game of the season today against Hertha Berlin. But first, there's a bunch of different stuff that we want to go into. First, each different save that I've done so far this year, including offline saves and everything else, I've tried to do like a different formation, which is where this kind of nutcase 3-5-2 comes from. I remember there was a really old version of like FIFA, maybe 2003, 2004, maybe even 2005 or 6. I've just realised how big that logo is behind my head. Let's go and change that first. There we go, that looks much nicer. I think it was around that level, 2005 maybe, where there was a great 3-5-2 formation that I used to play, and I was obsessed with it for a little while, and it was like my go-to football manager formation, and then the last few years I've kind of gotten away from it a fair bit. Now we did, for long-term viewers of the save, of the channel, we did in our beta save try and get like a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 or a 5-2-3 or however you wanted to look at it, working with Atletico Madrid, and we had some success with it, but I haven't really gotten one that's kind of been the dominant force that I would want it to be. And I think there's a few players and a few different positions in this Leverkusen side that could potentially bring it back. They've got three excellent centre-backs. We'll go through the team a little bit further in greater detail. They've got two very good wingers, also both wonder kids for when we do our full squad preview. And they've got Kai Havertz, who I think is going to be a big part of this shape and of this structure. So I wanted to try and get all of those different elements in there without playing the same 4-2-3-1 that we have effectively played all throughout the Isle of Man series, without doing the 4-4-2 that we did at United, without doing the 4-3-3 that we've done in a couple of our different stream saves as well. I wanted to try something different, and that's why this chaotic mess that is the 3-5-2 has come to be. I don't know what shape you think it looks like. For me, it's kind of a gingerbread man, but it's also kind of like a capital M and then a little m down here. So that WM philosophy that a lot of different managers, including Guardiola and a bunch of those players, or Bielsa disciples kind of use, it's like a double M or M&M or Slim Shady. I've gone with a big farmer tactical style. It's a little bit different. I'm trying to keep it basic at the start here, and effectively what I want to do is start on an attacking structure, and then if that's not working or we go a goal up, dropping back to like a positive structure that's a little bit more shorter passing, a little bit more possession based to try and keep the ball and stop that side breaking against this. It's a little bit of a jump from what we usually do or what I like to do in my saves, but I think it could be a really interesting one for us. And having that kind of deep block of 5, 2 defensive midfielders and 3 centre-backs, I think it's going to give us a consistent defensive structure. And then hopefully once we win the ball and everybody kind of like expands out like wings, it will help us stretch teams quite easily. So like a lot of these centre-back instructions are to just like split wide as soon as we're in possession. We'll see how this plays out. I could crack the shits with this and throw it out the window very early on in the save. It wouldn't be the first time that I've done that throughout the course of a series. And there is quite a bit of like red and orange around the pitch here. This kind of like X through the middle is a little bit concerning. But I'm not necessarily worried about players being in those positions if we're not particularly putting the ball in those positions. So we've taken away a lot of the usual instructions we'd use around like overlapping and working it down wide. We've also gone to a very narrow attacking width. If that doesn't work, we can try and expand it out a little bit to try and stretch the defense a little bit more. And I have kind of ramped up the passing directness and tempo a little bit as well, so that if we've got those 3 guys further forward, a number 10 and 2 strikers, we can try and get them the ball a little bit quicker and hopefully get them in like 2v1 or 3v3 situations where they might work a goal scoring opportunity. So there are spoilers here. Obviously, you've seen a bit of the team now, but we will go through and have a look at the squad and a lot of players they've got. If you look at the potential side, it's a very exciting lineup. Yes, there are 2 loan signings here. Yes, there's a signing that I made. But there are a bunch of different players here that have wonder kid status. There's a bunch of players here that have like 5-star potential ability. There's a few others in the squad as well that look like they might get to 3 and 4-star players if you give them playing time. And look at the average ages here, like down to Jonathan Tah, they're all the way down to Bellarabi as far as potential ability is concerned. There's a lot of players here under the age of 23, which makes them a very young and exciting lineup. Not all these players will start. There are some duplicates in different positions that we'll kind of need to manage and work throughout the course of the save and the series. But they have like a really exciting core of young players just looking for opportunities. And if they hit the ground running, I think a very exciting lineup. So before we go for the full squad, I'll show you guys what I've done in terms of transfers as well. You'll see a few players have gone out. Some before I actually got here. The only 3 that I sold are Wendell that you see here, Mitchell Weiser and Daly Sinkraven. Julian Brandt, the big one, going to Dortmund. That's obviously in the real world replicated here within the save. It's a big loss for Leverkusen, but to be honest, they've got about 3 or 4 players that are capable of playing on that left-hand side. And while he is a fantastic player, I don't think it's going to be that big a loss for us this season, particularly in this weird 3-5-2 shape that I've dreamt up. For the guys we've got rid of, it's probably no surprise that Wendell is probably their starting left back. Decent Brazilian player. He's moved on to Flamengo back in Brazil, who are willing to pay the £8 million fee that I set out for him. Mitchell Weiser is the other one, a right wing back. He's gone to Shanghai and managed to get himself a nice little pay increase as well, moving over to China. And then the last one, Daly Sinkgraven, a backup left back who can also play in the centre of the park, who just joined them from Ajax. Didn't actually make a first team appearance before I passed him on. He's gone to Eintracht Frankfurt. So we will come up against him this season, or will we? Yes, we will. I thought they might have been in the lower division, but they're not. We will play against them at some point this year. And really, that's just to balance out us, one, at the start of the save, and this is probably the important part that you need to know. You've got no transfer budget to work with at all, and you've got very little in terms of available wage budget. So you will have to sell players if you want to try and bring players in season 1. And I did have a couple of positions that I wanted to try and get additional depth, get additional playing group in, which we will get to shortly. I am currently 11k over my wage budget, but I am trying to free up some additional wages by offering contracts to the players in the squad for less than their current amount, but with higher signing on fees or loyalty bonuses. That will hopefully get us underneath our wage budget by the time we get to the middle of the season or the end of the season. But right now, very, very tight financially in terms of what we can and can't do. And you can see club finances, the overall balance isn't that great. We did drop down because of the transfer fees paid, but we are working our way back up. We're kind of up towards 4.94 million now in the bank. And hopefully as the season continues and our expenditure remains consistent and our income remains consistent from gate receipts, Europe, all that sort of stuff, this will continue to go up, and maybe in January we can ask for a little bit more money from the board. We'll see how that goes. So from those 3 transfers, we raised £19 million, which meant I had very limited options in what I could bring in, which is why I've only signed 1 player on a permanent deal. And it's a player similar to what I was saying about with Erling Haaland that I've heard great things about but haven't had an opportunity to play with myself, and that is Joshua Zirkzee from Bayern Munich. 18-year-old Dutch forward, 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. We've picked him up on a fairly low rate, £15 million, which is $5 million up front and $10 million over the next 3 seasons. We'll play him as an advanced forward in his preferred role. He can do as a trequartista, he can do as a complete forward. We'll keep that up our sleeves if we need it later on. But even in that role, he's got a lot of the key attributes already over 13, despite only being relatively young. If his off the ball improves, if his dribbling improves, he will be an absolute star for us. 193 centimetres, he's a big boy. He's relatively quick as well. Good agility, good balance, good jumping reach as well for those balls into the box out of the air. Very happy to have him. And he, again, weakens Bayern Munich a little bit as well. So it kind of ruins their depth just a little bit as well. Because we spent that money, we didn't really have much else that we could work in the transfer market. So he's actually the only signing of this list that I have brought in myself. So all the other ones that you see here for big money, like Demerbe, who's joined from Hoffenheim, Tabsoba, who's joined for Guimarães over in Portugal. Zirkzee is the only one that I've actually brought in myself. The other two are both loan signings. One where we have to pay £1 million a month to get him in, so that worked out to be about £8 or £9 million for the season as well, is Daniel Axel Zagadou, who's joined from Dortmund. Another wonder kid to add to the list of few that we've already got. I wanted a ball-playing defender to play as a covering defender in the middle, and I also wanted to, if we need it, have a left-footed centre-back. I think that always helps on that left-hand side. So right now he's starting in the middle of that three. He might move out to the left. We'll go through that a little bit when we talk about Jonathan Tah and the full squad and all that sort of stuff. But again, low risk for us. He'll go back to Dortmund at the end of the season. If it works out really well and we wanted to go in for him, you might be able to get him for like 10, 20, 30 million pounds, depending on where Dortmund are at and if they're happy to let him go. But he looks to be an absolutely fantastic prospect. It'll be great to see how he develops over the course of this season. And then the other loan signing we brought in, also from Bayern Munich, Fiat Arp has joined, 19-year-old German player. Had previously been at Hamburg and has joined FC Bayern before getting put into the FC Bayern 2 squad, which is where we actually picked him up from. They weren't using him in the first team. He's got excellent finishing. Again, he's suited to be an advanced forward, but I want to use him as a pressing forward in our structure. And just another high prospect talent that we want to give playing time to in the hope that he will hit the ground running and make the most of some of this potential ability this season for us. And again, if he has a good year, he's only at £2 million value right now. I know Bayern Munich and Dortmund are two of the bigger sides and they're probably going to want a lot of cash for their players. But if these are players that are surplus to their own requirements and they're managing in their squads without them, I don't think there's any reason why at the end of the season we couldn't try and pick him up for some money as well if we have cash on hand. So they're the three that I've signed, in addition to the other players that were signed by the club in real life that have just joined the squad. And it does give us a really good balance. You'll see the majority of the players that have high potential I'm trying to put in the starting lineup to develop them and try and, I don't know what the German equivalent is for you win nothing with kids, but effectively that's kind of what we're going for. But it is a really well-balanced lineup, and if we go into the tactic, you'll see quite a few of the players are already comfortable in their position in the role that we're asking them to complete. I'll just preview the starting 11 because I don't think you need to see every individual player, but they've got Lucas Radicki here in goal. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation. If you are Finnish and in the comment section, let me know if I've absolutely ruined that one for you and what the preferred phonetic pronunciation might be. Not the biggest keeper, only 190 centimetres, which is weird when you look at all the 195, 196 guys we've got in the team, but he looks really solid. He's got good kicking, one-on-ones, reflexes and throwing, all above 16. Even though he's only 3-star current ability and potential, I think he's still a relatively good player. And I don't know if this is correct, but it says he's made 32 appearances and not conceded yet. So I can't imagine that's true. He surely would have conceded a goal at some point, or Leverkusen would be the reigning Bundesliga champions. But he does look to be a very good keeper. He can play as a sweeper keeper on support, so we're going to give him a chance in that role just to see how that looks different to a defend instruction, which I've used previously throughout FM so far. And he will marshal the back line in front of him of a back three of the first one here, Edmund Tapsoba, another 5-star potential player, 20 years of age, picked up from Guimarães over in Portugal. Full Burkina Faso international, looks to be a very good ball-playing defender. Has relatively good technical attributes for a young defender, which is always interesting to see. Mentally, he will improve at 20 years of age, and physically just looks to be a fair player as well. Now, it is worth noting that we didn't have him for the entirety of preseason either. There's a couple of players, and we'll highlight them as we go through them, that were away for extended international breaks. So he is still coming into fitness. He hasn't made that many appearances so far in preseason, but hopefully, as we continue getting into the season, he will come into his own as well. And he'll build a good partnership with these other two players. Zagadou we already went through, left-sided centre-back on loan from Dortmund. Jonathan Tah is the other one, who I find to be a very interesting player. For a couple of seasons, he was actually pegged as being like a wonder-kid defender, or a high potential defender. And I don't know if he quite hit those heights, but he does look to be a very good option. Still only 23 years of age, 3.5-star current ability, 4-star potential. Has pretty good technical attributes for what you'd want out of a defender. You could maybe say his heading needs a bit of improvement, but he's 192 centimetres tall, so I don't necessarily think he's going to struggle too much with that. He's also got 17 jumping reach, so I'm not sure why that heading rating is so low. Unless he gets his head to the ball and it just goes anywhere, you would think he's going to win most one-on-one duels at the back. Mentally, looks very good. He's got good composure. Positioning needs a little bit of work, but he has been working on that in preseason. And then physically, just an absolute beast. 16 balance, 17 jumping reach, 18 strength. He's a big boy. And if he had a little bit more agility, if he had a little bit more balance, I'd probably use him as the covering defender. But I think at the moment, Zagadou's the better fit, just because he has that ability to chase the ball in behind. But as far as players go, I'm very happy to have Jonathan Tah. We use him as a ball-playing defender on defend, which is his preferred role. We might change and adjust that as the season wears on, if things aren't working out quite the way we need them to. But a great player, and we're thrilled to have him. The oldest player in the starting lineup, Charles Aranguiz, a Chilean midfielder. I nearly said Colombian, but that would have offended all of our Chilean fans. He'll play as a deep line playmaker on defend. It's his preferred role. I like that role in this year's game. I think it does a variety of things very, very well. He's got fantastic stats and attributes across the board. Penalty taking of 17. I remember him taking like either a World Cup or a Copa America penalty that was just an absolute bullet into the top corner. It was the most composed finish I think I've ever seen from the penalty spot. So we might give him a chance to smash a couple into top corners throughout the course of this season. Mentally, just an absolute genius. Anticipation of 16, composure 16, decision-making 15, determination 16, 18 teamwork, 17 work rate. Nothing on here below 10. And even that 110 is flair, which I don't really need from a deep line playmaker on defend anyway. Physically very good. He's got 18 natural fitness, 16 agility, 17 stamina. Just a very, very good player. And while he is 30, you're definitely still able to get like a couple of serviceable years out of him at this level. He's a player that we've given a new contract to try and keep him around the club for a couple more seasons, but also to reduce his wage a little bit. And he signed relatively quickly, which is great for us. He'll play alongside Ezequiel Palacios. I think that's pronounced Ezekiel or Exequiel. That's definitely not it. Maybe we'll just call him Sexy Palacios and go with it from there. But a deep line playmaker on support. It'd be great if we could get him working as a Messiah or a box-to-box player. But for now, deep line playmaker on support's fine. We'll keep them as the base at midfield, trying to spray different passes out wide to the wide, more creative players, or forward to the front three as quickly as we can. He is a wonder kid at 20 years of age. You think this is his last year in that wonder kid status, but already looks to be quite fantastic. Again, a very mentally strong player. Physically needs a little bit of work, if I'm being completely honest. A lot of like 9s, 10s, 11s in here. But balance is the key and important one for what we need him to do. And he's already at 13. He's got 15 agility and 14 stamina as well. So I don't think he's going to have any issues adjusting to life in the Bundesliga after joining from River Plate. And already a full Argentine international with 3 caps to his name, which is great to see. Out on the left wing here, it's the first of a couple of wonder kids that are already at the club at the start of the season. Paulinho, who joined from Vasco da Gama in 2018. He's made 15 appearances for the Leverkusen side. I think his development and his ability is one of the big reasons that Julian Brandt has been let go. He'll play on that left-hand side for us as an inverted winger. Cutting inside, keeping us as narrow as possible, hopefully bridging that gap and that hole that we have just in behind Kai Havertz. And again, technically solid, mentally solid, physically quite good, 16 balance, natural fitness, 17 pace, all very impressive stuff. He'll be one for the future, one that we continue trying to develop, and I'm going to give him a starting berth just to see how he goes over the course of a season as kind of like a test environment. These one season wonder saves, they're a little bit less pressure. Over on the right-hand side, a name that everyone will recognise, Leon Bailey, who for a few seasons now has been one of the better prospects in the game itself. Prefers to play on the right, but he's a left-footed player. You can play him deeper here on the right-hand side of the midfield, which is how we're going to use him, or further forward as part of a front three, cutting in on that left foot. Very good technical ability, wonderful dribbling ability, good technique, good long shots, good corners, good crossing, mentally quite good as well. 17 flair is a big one that jumps out. He will repeatedly beat a man if we need him to. And physically is where he's most blessed. 18 acceleration, 18 pace, and 16 agility. All very impressive, and I think he will be a key part of our season. We're asking a lot of those two players on the right and left-hand sides, Paulinho and Bailey. If they can get through it and be creative forces and get involved in attacks and still be there as an outlet to receive possession once we win it back, I think we'll be in a great position. So a lot of pressure on him, but I think he's more than capable of actually being a superstar player for us this season. I already mentioned him briefly, but Kai Havertz, one of the biggest prospects in the game. 20-year-old German wonder kid, 3 caps to his name for the German national side. Comfortable in advanced playmaking role at the 10. Comfortable in advanced playmaking role a little bit deeper if you want to play him there. Wonderful technical attributes here. 17 technique, 17 first touch for someone so young is very impressive. Passing maybe needs a little bit of improvement. It's only 14. I say it's only 14. 14 is still very, very good. Mentally very good as well. 17 composure, 16 off the ball, 17 vision, 15 teamwork, 15 decision making. He's the sort of guy that you definitely want pulling the strings at that number 10 role. And physically very gifted as well. 12 is the lowest attribute. 16 natural fitness, 17 pace, the big ones that jump out at you there. If we can get him carrying the ball early and carrying the ball in space, I think he's going to be fantastic for us. The front two, we have gone with Xerxes and Arp. I do want to try and give them a bit of an opportunity to develop, and obviously bringing in Arp and Zagadou on loan isn't ideal for our long-term prospects, but I want to see this season how we can go trying to develop young talent and giving them a platform to perform in. We do have a lot of talent on the bench. Kevin Voland is down there, who's always a player that I think you see move to a bigger club throughout the course of a save or throughout the course of a series. And he looks very good. Technically, not the greatest in the world, but mentally just very, very strong. 17 aggression off the ball, 16 teamwork, 18 work rate, good technical physical attributes as well, 18 balance, 18 stamina, very impressive stuff, 17 natural fitness. Still only 27. It feels like he's been around for 100 years, but players like him, players like the Bender brothers, Players like Bellarabi, who's been around at Leverkusen for quite a few seasons, in his 9th year at the club, actually, looking at that record there. People like Kerem Demirbay, who they picked up this season from Hoffenheim. These are all great squad players that I think are going to complement the existing squad and the existing structure really, really well. We do have 22 players, 2 players for each position. That's the way that I've kind of planned out the squad and planned out the different groups. And I think throughout the course of the save, throughout the course of the series, a lot of different players are going to get opportunities across the park. But as far as the starting 11 is concerned, as far as the tactic is concerned, I'm relatively happy. And at the start of the season, I'm always super excited about what our prospects might be for the year ahead. Now, looking to the rest of the division, which is where this gets very interesting. The season preview currently has us based on reputation, which is how it draws these figures, in case you're ever curious. We're expected to finish 3rd in the league behind Munich as 5-2 favourites, or Dortmund 7-2 favourites. We're at 6-1 odds, which isn't miles away. But when you look at the Dream 11s, it is dominated entirely by players from Munich, and then a couple of additional players here from Dortmund. Now, of course, in goal, he's been a stalwart, not just of the German national side that's been so successful over the last 10, 12 years, but also a very strong Bayern Munich lineup. They've got Alaba at left back, where I don't think that's actually where they play him. They've got Hernandez in there, Kimmich at the right-hand side. Kimmel is a talk show host. Coutinho and Thiago in the middle, Gnabry and Müller on the wing, Lewandowski up top. For Dortmund, they've got Hummels at the back, Rausch playing at the number 10, which isn't necessarily where I think they're going to use him this season either. It's a very strong lineup. And then you've got the likes of Leipzig, not even mentioned really. They're kind of down here in 6th spot, but then we know they have a very strong lineup. Borussia Mönchengladbach have been fantastic this season in the real world. They might continue that in the season itself. Schalke have a very good lineup also, some very strong players in there. And even the likes of Hertha Berlin that we play today, like they've got some very big players that they've brought across into the division as well. They have spent £80 million, so you'd expect them to try and want to get return off that also. For us, as far as the key players are concerned, Kai Havertz is in there, Charles Aranguiz is in there. I feel like I'm pronouncing that name a little bit differently every time I say it. I will continue to work on that throughout the course of the save in the series. I don't claim to be cultured, but I do claim to try. Our pre-season results have been really good. We've only lost 2 games, a game against Genk and the game against Sparta Prague. I'm not super panicked about that because we did try a couple of different things in pre-season. I didn't coach any of these games. I just let the assistant do it. But then I looked at the analysis and we kind of made different tactical tweaks. We've tried our cautious mentality a couple of times. We've tried our positive mentality a couple of times. We've done a few different things against a few different teams to figure out what works best for this group and the way that they play. And I'm hopeful. I don't think we're the finished article yet. I will chop and change these tactics quite a bit, and you might see things very different from episode to episode, being a more concise season this year or this week in the save. But I am relatively happy with the results we've gotten, and I am relatively happy with the football that we've played along the way as well. And with that, nothing really left to do than to jump into the first game of the season against Hertha Berlin. We will jump forward now, have a look at the 2 lineups and see how we get on from there. So just like that, we are about an hour further forward. Hertha are doing some very interesting things. They're playing like a 5-4-1, which is interesting. It's actually not miles different to what we're doing, just kind of different structures. If you kind of look at this as being a back 5, maybe we're doing like a 5-3-2 in transition, I guess, if Paulinho and Bailey drop in, but it is going to create some very unique scenarios, I think, in where players actually pick up the ball for both teams. They do have some great players, though. Stark at the back here, 24 years of age, a very good player. One of those smoky players that kind of doesn't necessarily get the respect in terms of current ability or potential ability stars, but like he's got all the key attributes to play as a good covering central defender. Excellent teamwork, good bravery for a centre-back, good physical attributes for what you need out of a defensive player. 17 pace for a defender is very, very impressive. He's one to keep an eye on if you've got like a strong, or like, what would you say, like a mid-table Premier League side maybe. He could come in and do a really good job without necessarily commanding a massive fee or massive wages in that regard. They've got Luka Bacchio, who looks like he was their highest average rated player in their German Cup game, which we of course played as well. 21-year-old Belgian winger, not like solid, not spectacular, nothing jumping out at me massively. 17 acceleration and pace is impressive, as is 17 flair, but I don't think he's necessarily on the level of like a Leon Bailey or someone like that. Out on the left, they've got Solomon Kalou, who's still going at 34 years of age. You can see he's on the downswing of his career. He still looks just the same as he did at 21 when he was coming through at Chelsea. But still a very good player, still good first touch, penalty taking, composure, a few good attributes in there as well. Physically not horrific, not the worst 34-year-old player I've ever seen in terms of physical ability. You've got Marko Grujic in midfield, on loan from Liverpool. And the big guy up top here, Krzysztof Piatek, who's come back from Milan. His first time in Germany, having previously played at Genoa before going to Milan. And it wasn't really a good stint for him. 9 goals in 18 appearances isn't terrible, but I don't think they looked at him as being like the future of the club or anything like that. Very good finishing though. 17 finishing, 16 heading, 18 penalty taking. Wonderful technical attributes. 17 anticipation, 16 concentration, determination, 18 off the ball, 16 work rate. Physically very good. I know they spent a little bit of money on him. £19 million bringing him across, but he's already worth $24.5 million. So kind of already good return on investment from that. And if he gets them a whole bunch of goals, there's no reason that I don't think this Hertha side couldn't be up towards the top of the division. The one thing that I think might hurt them is that they are a bit defensive with a flat 5 at the back. That's very, very isolating for a striker. If they're either going to try and get him out early, or these wing backs are going to bob on, these wingers are going to play a little bit further forward. It looks like Grujic is the furthest forward of the 3 or the 4 midfielders across there. It could be an interesting one for us. We're, of course, going with Radicki in goal, Tar, Zagadou, and Tapsoba as the back 3. Aranguiz will anchor midfield alongside Palacios in a little bit more of a free role. Paulinho on the left, Bailey on the right, Havertz playing at the 10 behind Joshua Zirkzee and Fiat up. Hopefully, Zirkzee got goals on debut in the German Cup. Hopefully, a couple of more players will chip in throughout the course of this one. Assertively, we're going to say, let's give the fans something to cheer today, and I'm also going to assertively tell the defence that I've got faith in them. If we get a clean sheet, we're well on our way. But as we've kind of looked at Hertha, I think a little bit of a smoky in terms of the quality and ability in their squad. Right, we're through 30 minutes without a highlight for either side. We're going to use our Get Creative shout. Statistically, we have got a bit of possession, which is an interesting one. We're not on shorter passing. First highlight of the game comes from a goal kick for Hertha. It's a flick on header, but Tar recovers possession. And you should see the 2 centre-backs split out once we recover the ball. We've gone long forward to Havertz, so he has time to turn and run with it in midfield. Needs a bit of support though. Instead he goes a drive from the edge of the area and it had a lot of pace on it. Just lacking that little bit of accuracy there. Looks like a free kick from distance, which I think is going to be Xerxes to take. I don't know what his free kick taking is like. Not a bad effort. It's pinballed around before Tapsoba taps it home, funnily enough. First goal of the season for him and his first ever goal for the club. I didn't know Joshua Xerxes could take free kicks. Maybe I should go and have a look at what his free kick rating is. Good effort. And it's Justine in goal who actually can't clear it. And then Torrenariga, it's hard to read that in that 3D highlight. Probably should have cleared it, but Tapsoba goes through the back of him to tap it home from a few yards out. And we take a goal advantage. I can't say it's been the most exciting game in the history of the world. So far, Hertha, 3 shots, 3 on target, 35% possession. We've had 9 shots, 2 on target, and 65% of the ball. I'm going to assertively say I'm pleased with how things are going. Keep it up. We don't need to panic too early on in the season. And early doors in the year, I just like to keep morale up as much as possible. So sometimes I might say things a little bit different to what I actually believe, just in an effort to try and keep everyone happy. Looks like Bayern and Dortmund, Frankfurt and Berlin, the other sides winning their games early on, but all by 1 goal margins. Bailey with the ball now, right-hand side, getting it back on his left foot, and he's gone to strike himself. First goal of the season for him. The assist goes to Aranguiz. And we'll check it out here in 3 dimensions. It looks to be a phenomenal strike. You can see Bailey is taking throw-ins with this exact purpose in mind. That he'll take the throw and then pick possession back up as the free man, gets it in on his left-hand side, and it just rifles that one past the keeper. Maybe, again, the keeper could have done a little bit better. Didn't look like his feet were set, but I will absolutely take it. Bailey again with the throw-in here. Plays it across to Aranguiz. Let's work it to the left-hand side. Good reverse pass to Paulinho. He gets a strike away and he's clipped the base of the post before it gets brought back for offside. Good finish though, and a lovely ball from Aranguiz again in behind. He's got a free kick now. He stands over, he looks towards backstick, and Jonathan Tah with the header just over the crossbar as we get towards the hour mark. I'm going to hit pause there. Let's have a look at our subs. And there's a couple of different things we have to keep an eye on today. Conditioning is one, because we've had so many different players that haven't necessarily been there for all the preseason. But also match ratings, yellow cards, that sort of stuff we will need to keep an eye on as the season continues. Feet up hasn't had the best game. We might bring on Kevin Volland just to see what he can contribute off the bench. And then as far as conditioning is concerned, I don't know if we need to panic too much just yet, but maybe we look at Aranguiz's yellow card as something we need to resolve. We might bring on one of the benders who I've initially got in the side as backup central defenders, but they can fulfill roles as defensive midfielders, which is of course where they've started and played the majority of their careers. It looks like Sven might have been better positioned to play as a deep line playmaker. We'll bring him on, just a bit more steel and a bit more fresh legs in midfield, and just keeping an eye on that yellow card early doors. And we're also going to use our Get Creative shout with about 30 minutes remaining. Taps over with the ball here, across to Bender, now into Kai Havertz. Comes forward and gets the strike by that time. That one is on target, but Justine equal to it, saves and holds. And second half, we have been relatively, not relatively at all, very much on top of Hertha. They haven't had a shot on target so far in this second half. Ibisevic closed down, good header away by Zagadou. Bailey gives it away in a bad area. Back to Grujic, who looks to bring in Mittelstadt on the right-hand side. Too many men go to the ball, and we leave Mittelstadt alone on the right. Thankfully, he's come back into midfield. Derrida, now Grujic again. That might be a concern with the press that we're doing at the moment, is that too many men are going to the ball at the same time. Ball put back into a dangerous area. We nearly win it back, but the ball makes its way out to Klunter. Back into Dorita. Now Luka Barco on the right-hand side. Cuts back in, and Hradicki with a good save pushes it around the far post. Would have been a decent strike. Similar areas actually to Bailey, where he actually took the strike from. Dorita, ball in, and near post header. Never looked like challenging. Looked like everyone had that covered as it sails over the crossbar. Where's the ball at the minute? Klunter, right-hand side. Played forward to Dorita in midfield. We're looking at Hertha coming back into the game a little bit. They find Wolf on the right-hand side, who cuts inside and smashes home the finish. First goal of the season for him, and his first goal for Hertha Berlin. We'll check it out here in 3 dimensions. So this might be where it hurts us a little bit. You can see that defensive line is really close to the midfield. We might need them to drop off a little bit to the 18-yard box, because that one touch takes him inside, taps over, and then he just smashes that one home. Hradicki can do nothing about it. Right-hand side, we might win the ball back here through Xerxes. Good pass into Kai Havertz. This is where we want him, in space, running at the defence. Now out to Bailey. Goes past one challenge. Back to Havertz again. Look it to the left. Paulinho's there. Finds Xerxes. Now Bender into Paulinho again. Back to Palacios, who goes to strike. He's clipped the bar, and then they managed to scramble it away. We will hit pause there. We're going to use our last sub just to try and see this one through. I think what we'll do is now sort by condition rather than average rating. Zagadou not having a great one in that respect. But you can see here, Leon Bailey hasn't played that many games during pre-season. We want to try and keep him fit. We're going to bring on Bellarabi as a winger on support. And then we might also adjust Paulinho to be a winger on that side as well, just to give us a little bit more width as we try and release that pressure valve. We're going to tell him we've got faith in him, and we're also, I think, going to use a demand washout here for the last 10 minutes. I'd take a 2-1 away win against what I think is a very good Hertha side on the opening day of the season. And statistically, the performance has been very good. 4 minutes of additional time now at the end of the second half. We're through that now as the referee calls full time. It's a good 2-1 victory to start the season. Hertha in the end, 8 shots, 5 on target, 36% possession. But there was that 15-20 minute period at the start of the second half where they didn't have a shot. And it really looked like we kind of put our foot down and went to a different level. We just need to be consistent in that across the whole of the 90 minutes or across the whole of the season. That's really what we need. 24 shots, 9 on target, 64% possession in the end. We are keeping the ball very, very well. And Leon Bailey should get the Man of the Match award with his 8.5 match rating. I'm going to passionately tell the team, well done lads, that was a good win for us and a great way to start the season. What more could you want on the opening day of the season than a good away win? So that does see us go 4th spot. You can see Eintracht Frankfurt, Bayern Munich and Dusseldorf all winning by 2-goal margins, putting them above us. Dortmund drew on the opening day of the season to Hoffenheim, a very late equaliser there from Kaderabek, which does make it interesting, and Lewandowski at the double for Bayern Munich, getting them the result against Paderborn. Leipzig drew with Werder Bremen. Mönchengladbach actually lost to Dusseldorf. Wolfsburg lost. Schalke lost. It wasn't a great opening day of the season for quite a few of the sides that were high in that pre-season prediction. And Bailey gets the Man of the Match award, so we're going to give him a little bit of praise. Superb in the number and quality of chances that he created in that game. Now, we do things a little bit differently. You will know that if you watch our FC Isle of Man series, it takes about 2 weeks for us to get through a season. We want to try and get through this season in 5 days, so we will jump ahead to probably about our 10th game of the season, which I think means we jump ahead a little bit towards the end of October, maybe even into early November. What we will do is off-screen play through a couple of these games. We're also going to see our Champions League group stage draw, which I think will be very interesting. If we get a big team, we might bring you that in an episode and do this game against Köln as well. Or Cologne. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that in the translation from German back to English. I'm going to go with Köln, but by all means, correct me in the comment section below. I get more wrong than I get right. Or we'll come back and do the game against Union Berlin and the Champions League game there. And then that kind of sets us up to have another good little gap before we come back for games against Dortmund and Leipzig later on in the season, as well as trying to get in like Schalke, Bayern Munich, and a few other teams towards the end of the year as well. As always, guys, so much what you see on the channel is going to be driven by what you want to see. If you've got your own ideas of things that you want to see as one season wonder saves, drop them in the comment section below. We have had some great ideas. We are going to have a few more gaps between now and the release of FM21, which is, to be honest, mind-boggling to think that that's probably only 3 or 4 months away. You can subscribe to the channel to be kept up to date on all our future videos as they're released, or if you want to celebrate the start of a new series and a new one season wonder save, you can drop a like on this video. It just pleases that YouTube algorithm, gets us higher in search results when people look for YouTube content relating to Football Manager. But more than anything, I just appreciate you guys watching. I've been Sean, and I'll see you all again in the mixer.